Now, the actual costs incurred by the states in the construction of the Atuabo gas infrastructure became the reason for a dragging debate in Parliament yesterday when Petroleum Minister Emmanuel appeared before the House to answer questions. Now, though the minister insists it cost the country some $1 billion, some members of Parliament are challenging that figure.
Government is coming under intense pressure to fully disclose the exact amount spent in constructing the Atuabo gas processing plant, following revelations in Parliament on Wednesday that the Petroleum Ministry may have understated the total cost. The Sector Minister, Emmanuel, answering a question in Parliament, announced that the project costs government $1 billion. But that figure is now being challenged by the Member of Parliament for Yagaba Kubori, Mustafa Yusuf, who provided documentary evidence that government spent more than $1.5 million to complete the gas infrastructure project. He is now asking government to account for the $500 million difference. Here is Petroleum Minister Emmanuel Amakufibua.
It was formed in 2011. The contract for the construction of the gas infrastructure project EPCC was signed in July 2012. Mechanical completion of the project was achieved in August 2014. Commissioning started in November 2014 and completed in April 2015. The total budget for the project is $1 billion, made up of $850 million CDB facility and the government of Ghana counterpart funding of $150 million. The gas infrastructure project in the Western region consists of the following components: the offshore pipeline, the gas processing plant at Atuabo, the onshore pipeline, the gas hub centers, the operation office complex at Siema, the cost of the facility, contractual costs. So, Speaker, the total paid and committed costs to date amount to $886,345,042.13 Total amount yet to be committed is $130,654,957.87 Mr. Speaker, as I said, I will work as quickly as possible, Ghana Gas, but I hope I can get the document here by the 13th of June.
But the MP for Yakaba Kubori, Mustafa Yusuf, is not satisfied with the response provided by the minister and is demanding full disclosure.
I'm not satisfied at all with the response from the minister, because as we witnessed in the chamber, the question was to establish the actual cost of the Atuabo gas project. And the minister gave the cost, the budgeted cost, as $1 billion. But they've spent almost 886 million USD, okay? But they are yet to spend 130 million on other auxiliary goods. But I have in my hand a document this Ghana Gas submitted to PURC as the cost of the total Atuabo gas project in order to determine the tariff for which the sale of the gas from the Atuabo gas project will be established. And that cost is $1.578 billion. So that is where the reason why I'm not satisfied, because I wanted to establish why the difference between the figure the minister gave to the House today and the component used by PURC to determine the tariff.
So therefore you are saying that the figure provided by the minister before Parliament today is different from the one the gas processing plant has presented to PURC for them to fix their tariff?
You realize that the minister was even agreeing with me that yes, they are in talks with PURC and there are other future investment they are going to make. But I don't understand why Ghanaians should be paying, because currently the gas from Atuabo is being sold to VRA at 10-point-something cents, okay? And if we are going to be paying for future investment, the minister should have been clear in the answer by telling us that they've spent $1 billion, but they are now going to, there are other auxiliary expenditure of almost $600 million that they will be spending. But that's not what the minister said. The minister could not establish the fact that there is a difference, there is a huge gap of almost $600 million.
Management of the Metro Mass Transit Company has set a September deadline to get all broken down buses back on the road. This follows the acquisition of some spare parts from Holland that the ministry says will arrive in the country soon.
Out of the 945 Metro Mass Transit Limited operational buses, 333 have broken down since the beginning of 2014. The company is unable to get the buses onto the roads due to the lack of spare parts in the country. Acting Communications Manager of the Metro Mass Transit Limited, Benessa Kologo, tells Joy News the company has signed a €1 million contract with VDL Holland for the importation of new spare parts by August. The company says it will in the interim rely on local manufacturers to supply them with some spare parts.
Yes, we have 330 buses currently broken down out of the 945 operational we have. We are still running all our routes, yes, but if we used to have 4 buses on a route, we've now reduced it to like say 3 or 2, and so all our routes are still running, but with a reduced number of buses. Currently, we are procuring some locally made parts to fix on the buses for the buses to move, but we've just signed an agreement with VDL Holland to give us €1 million worth of spare parts, which we'll pay in a duration of 60 days. So it's like a credit thing. They are yet to be shipped, and so we are looking at receiving them in August, and so by September we'll have all our buses back on road.
On the newly acquired buses, Benessa Kologo says the Ministry of Transport is yet to officially release them for use.
We are expecting 200 new buses. Currently 116 of them are in, but they've not been officially handed over to us, and so they're still under the Ministry of Transport. With these ones, they come with the Huangai buses. They're from China. They come with their parts. We have parts. Even when we've not started using the bus, they came with parts, and so we have parts in stock. And so the same situation with the video buses won't happen with the new ones.
Tilda Humaga for Joy News.
Think tanks in developing countries have continuously been challenged with funding shortfalls and suspicion from governments over their research outcomes. In Ghana, the Institute of Economic Affairs and other think tanks like Imani Ghana have had to endure labels and name tags on numerous occasions. The ruling NDC recently threatened to boycott all IEA programs because of what it calls bias towards the ruling government. Now, Joy News editor Stephen Anti caught up with the executive director of the IEA, Jean Mensah, and first asked if she's worried about such labels.
To carry out our mandate, and the issue of corruption is something that has been at the heart of the research that we do. Indeed, the focus of our work on corruption is strengthening institutions. It's not to tag any political party or any government. It has focused on enhancing and strengthening our core institutions of restraint to perform their roles as expected of them in the Constitution. And our work has focused on doing an audit of these institutions and providing recommendations and proposals to strengthen them. And I know that at one point or the other, the outputs or the outcomes of our research have not been pleasing to many governments. And we are not, it really comes with a job where you are labeled, where you are threatened. It's really part of the job. It comes with the territory.
So you'll still go ahead, for example, and invite the NDC government to partake in a presidential debate ahead of election 2016, regardless of any criticism or doubts they may have about your stance?
Very much so, because I say here now that the Institute is neutral, it's objective, and it will continue to carry out its work without fear or favor. And yes, we've been labeled. I know that as far back as 1989, the Institute is actually Ghana's, or the West Africa's first public policy institute. And at the time of our founding, we were just emerging from a military rule. And it was really new to have a policy center critiquing government policies and providing policy options. And we've been labeled CIA, we've been called MPP, we've been called NDC, but we've continued. And we don't feel threatened. And we will continue to carry out our mandate and of doing objective, rigorous, evidence-based research that informs and influences, to inform and influence policy making in Ghana. And come 2016, we would invite the key parties. We work closely with political parties with representation in Parliament. We would extend an invitation to all of them.
Thank you. We're taking a quick break here. We return with business shortly.